Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, the Cellarcast. Episode 125. That's right. It's so good to be out of debt now, baby. Let me tell you, I have this weird kind of bad feeling in my mouth because I woke up and I was like, I'm kind of hungry, but I'm not super hungry. But I'm thirsty, obviously, just because I spent all night sleeping. So I'm thirsty. Oh, you know what we got in the fridge? Some kiwis. So I went and I grabbed 2 kiwis. They weren't very large, so I got 2. Sliced them up. Got a spoon for myself. Sat down, and it turns out it's not kiwi season, because these babies were ripe. They were hard and sour. I haven't had a kiwi in a minute. I remember kiwis being kind of like a nice, kind of is citrus the right word for it? There's kind of like a sweetness to it. It's a little sweet, and there's a little like sour kind of bite, if I remember it. I was like, yikes. Okay. Don't let this color your perception of the entire fruit, Taigen. It's just one anecdotal evidence. Don't look at the statistics, okay? They lie. The fuck kind of joke am I trying to make? So I've got 2 like husks of 2 kiwis sitting on a plate next to me, and I'm doing that. Does my voice sound weird? I went over to Kat's on Friday, and she sometimes has this goddamn poltergeist in her house that just fucks my sinuses. Just like I start sneezing, and then it lets loose this like constant runny nose. I'm like messed up for like the next day at least or 2, and I felt it. I'm like, am I just getting allergies? It's weird to get allergies in the fall, right? It's getting chilly outside. The leaves aren't really turning that orange. I'm looking out my window. They aren't turning that orange, but it's something. It's weird for allergies to pop up right now. Maybe she got me sick again. Maybe she did it. Maybe she did it again. Kat got her another COVID shot, and I'm not getting any because, to be honest, if I've learned anything, I don't need to get COVID shots. She needs to get them so that I don't get sick from her, because that's the only time I ever get sick is from her ass. I love you, sweetheart. I know you're listening. I spent yesterday trying to fix my microwave because I noticed, I was cooking up some meatballs, and I'm like, I took them out. I was like, these meatballs, they aren't cooked right. I put them in for the same amount of time they should usually be put in for the number of balls that I stuck in the device. And then I took them out, and I was like, they're not cooked. It was so when you undercook something in the microwave, it'll be cold at the center. But it was almost like they'd been broiled. They were only cold on one side, but the other side was clearly cooked. And I was like, that's very odd. So next time I cooked something in the microwave, I looked inside, and I realized the plate wasn't spinning. I thought, that's pretty strange. Why wouldn't the plate be spinning? So I checked, after I'd taken my food out, I double checked. I was like, yep, okay, it's not cooked right. So I had to put it in for longer. Check, yeah, it's not spinning. Huh, okay. Took it out. It was like super, like bubbling, boiling hot on one end. Regular cooked on the other end. I'm like, okay. I gotta check this out. So I double checked to make sure the little roller thing, the plate was properly on, the roller things were right, the little gadget, the little gizmo at the center that spins, that turns the plate, that then rolls on the rollers. That thing was like, I was like, is it a problem with that thing? So I'm troubleshooting. I'm trying to figure out. A microwave, honestly, does not have that many parts in it that are not, the radiation bits. In terms of like the plate spinner part, it's actually a fairly simple contraption. It's a little motor that spins. There's that little usually like plastic kind of piece in the center, which takes the spinning energy. The plate goes on top of that, and then there's the little roller thing. It's actually very analog in a lot of ways. It's a very, very simple contraption. So there's not that many parts of it that can go wrong. And I'm troubleshooting it down to like, okay, everything's correct. The only thing it could be now is the motor. So I'm talking to my dad, and I'm like, hey, Dad, the microwave, I think the motor's busted or it's not working properly. Because every other part of it works. Every other part of the machine is working. The light, the fan, the heating element, it's all working right. The Oppenheimer box, it's working fine. That's where all the radiation comes out of. Do we have a multimeter? Because you can test whether or not a motor is carrying charge with a multimeter. And we don't have a multimeter. So I'm like, okay. I've decided to open it up so that I could like check to see like, is it plugged in? Is something fucked up? So here's the thing. My microwave, it's not a countertop microwave. It's like mounted into the ceiling, into the wall. And as I discovered, there's a little plate underneath it. I unscrewed the plate to reveal the guts. And I'm like, where is the plug for this thing? Turns out, the fucked up way my house is built, when this microwave, because this is a new microwave, it's only, I think it's less than a year old, actually. When we installed this new one, the plug to put it in is like behind it on the wall, and like there is no way. You'd have to take the entire thing out, which involves, there's this whole awful contraption we have to keep it in place. There's like metal. My house is so fucked up. I should do a house tour one day. I won't, because then it would be really fucking easy to dox me. Because my house is, the reason it's so fucked up is that it was built by my grandfather. This is some Taigen lore. It was built by my grandfather, and he does not know how to build a house. So almost every single feature of its layout is completely unique to any other house you will find, like, in, like, the state. It sticks out like a sore thumb. Just visually from the outside, you're like, what the fuck is this house? It looks like a mutant. It's constructed so oddly. And I try to like explain, like, normal people, most houses here, right? At least in like the Bay Area, they follow a pretty regular kind of construction, like, a regular house. And then I try to like describe to people like something in my house, and I have to be like, okay, so the layout, it's like this, and the first floor isn't like a floor. It's like the second floor is the first floor, and you gotta go with me on this. But it's not like really like a second floor. It's like it's so fucking weird. Anyway, I'm like, okay, fine. Let me go talk to my dad, see if we have a multimeter. We don't. I already unscrewed this thing. I probably should have checked if we had a multimeter first. So I'm like, do we have any other tools? Not really. That could check the voltage or if there's a current, if the motor's working. No. I'm like, well, if the thing's open, mind you, this is mounted above the stove. It's one of those. And there's a ton of grease in there. And I'm like, you know what? While I have this thing open, I'd really like to clean it. I'd like to get all the grease out. So I go through the whole process. I clean it up on the inside, which, it's not like the biggest deal ever, but I'm glad I did it. I learned how to, I'd never done that before, and so that was cool. I did, man things for once in my life. I'm like, great. Now I'm going to close this thing up. I'm going to close up the plate. I'm going to screw it back in. And this is where someone like threw away my meds. Because I'm screwing it in. There's about 10 screws, 5 on each side, left side, right side. Oh my god. Some of the screws don't align. The holes don't align from the plate to the screw holes where they're supposed to go through, right? Like the screw holes in the microwave itself through the plate. Like I'm picking it up and I'm like setting it like it's closed, right? I'm setting the plate up like it's closed. I'm holding it just to check, like, okay, when this thing is closed, there should be visible screws through the little holes in the plate. And like at over half of them, there aren't. And I'm like, what the fuck? Or they're at like these bizarre angles, or what? And I took like 10 minutes trying to screw this stuff back in. And you have to see where my like insanity comes from, right? Because it's like, at some point, less than an hour ago, this thing was screwed in. Those screws were in those holes. And now that I've unscrewed it, the holes are not where the holes were. This is like a horror thing. This is like a fucking Junji Ito story. So eventually what we did, I was like, Dad, I fucking visited him like 8 times today, asking him for different shit over this goddamn microwave. And finally I'm like, I'm really sorry, but I'm back. Have you ever tried to unscrew and rescrew that plate on the microwave? What's making this significantly more difficult is remind you, it's on the underside of the microwave, meaning that I'm working against gravity the entire time. Also, it's oily as shit. It's so greasy. It's so greasy on the underside because I didn't wash the underside. The inside, no one's ever gonna see, spick and span, clean as a whistle. But the underside. So I'm just getting grease all over my hands, which is then going onto my screwdriver, which is going on the screws, and it's all slipping, and now it's like, I have to hold it up, so I'm working against gravity, and I've got these greasy, slippery hands, which means that I have to like use my elbow to hold it up, and then use both hands because I need the extra grip on it. And while I'm doing that, I have to worry about, like, putting too much tension onto one side of the plate as I'm screwing the screw in, because you have to screw it in pretty decent for it to like stay there. But oh god, and then you hit this point where you're like gonna strip it. Fuck. Because there was like a couple that worked, and I was like, this one works, and they're all on the left side. So eventually what we did is we just decided the most sensible thing, because this shit is not making sense, is to just screw in as many as we can that will fit. And all the important ones to actually make the plate stay up and in place work. So, I have a functioning microwave now. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, we fixed the problem magically in the middle of doing this. Because my dad was like, well, hey, wasn't there that one time that your stupid fucking grandfather hit the button for too long and he turned it onto some like test or demo mode? And I'm like, yeah, but it's not on that right now. And I double check, and he's like, why don't you just try it? And I hold the 3 button, I hold the 3 key for 3 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever, and it flips the microwave into demo mode. That's what you'll see at the Home Depot or something, or wherever it's sold. It'll be on demo mode, where it like lights up and the table will spin, and the fan and and the lights will work. Like everything works except for the Oppenheimer box, right? So it just meant to demo like the functionality and what it'll look like, in action. Take it for a test drive, but it without the radiation part. So I turn it on demo mode. We just turn the microwave on, and the plate's spinning inside, and I'm like, you're fucking with me. I turn it off demo mode. It's fixed. The plate spins. I couldn't believe it. It has to have been some kind of software glitch. With the very limited digital components of the microwave, it has to have been some kind of arcane, cursed software glitch with my Oppenheimer box. So it was like, well, I fixed this problem. I didn't even feel like I fixed it. It was crazy because it took so long, and I think I did do quite a bit of work. But and by the end of it, everything got done, but I also felt completely unfulfilled. The problem just kind of fixed itself, and the other problem, there was like a problem created out of thin air with the screws. So I felt like I kind of wasted like half my day. It wasn't half my day. It was like 2 hours maybe, all told. Because I took a break because I got frustrated. I was getting so mad trying to screw those screws in. I was like, okay, take a breath. I don't like getting mad, so I gotta take a breath. I'm gonna sit down for a minute, and I'm gonna like distract myself. I'm gonna get my brain off of it, and we're gonna regroup, and we're gonna hit this thing hard, baby. And then I failed. But hey, I have a functioning box, so now I can make my meatballs again in peace, and they'll be cooked just fine. I use that thing a lot. I use that thing for, I've talked about the reheat and the defrost functions on the microwave. If you are not on, okay, there's so many people in this world who are not microwave power users, and they are missing out. Okay, if you're using your microwave like a MacBook, get the fuck out and unsubscribe from this channel. If you want to reheat, if you got some frozen bread, we freeze a lot of bread in this house. If you want to defrost that bread, use that goddamn defrost button. Do not put it in for 30 seconds, because it's so hard for every individual thing. It's going to be so hard to judge how long should I put it in, because sometimes you put it in for too long and it actually just dries out the entire piece of bread. And now it's like hard and dry and shitty when you could have used the defrost and gotten it perfect with like very little accuracy of like what setting you should use for the defrost. Most microwaves, they have a little thing on the inside, like when you open the door up, it's got some kind of guide on like what settings to put it on for what kind of thing. You're just like, this is like a chicken-sized sandwich, or I don't know, whatever. And then you just put it in on the reheat function, and then you heat it back up. Or maybe you don't do it like the whole way. You just kind of spitball it. And dude, once I started using those buttons, my entire life opened up. My skin got better, the bags under my eyes started going away, and I started getting significantly more job opportunities. And that's the shit that you've got to get on. Stop using your microwave like a goddamn peon, okay? I'm gonna pee on you if you keep doing that. I'd really like to I think it would be really funny, but I don't think it would set a good precedent. I think it would be great to do a video about going into like a Home Depot or a Lowe's where they sell microwaves and try to see if I could like cook a Hot Pocket in one of the microwaves without any of the employees noticing. I think that would be really funny. It would be like a Mission Impossible thing where you're trying to sneak in like a Hot Pocket into the thing, like turn it off demo mode. It's a pretty harmless prank, right? It's just like, I might get banned from that Lowe's. I gotta go to a Lowe's like really far away. Do they sell microwaves at Lowe's, or is that like a furniture store? Are microwaves considered furniture? They're an appliance. Hang on. Lowe's microwave? Oh, they totally have those. They totally have those. I want to do that. Like on the second channel. I'm gonna get Kat to film me. I'm gonna get a Cat to film me. See, what I can do is I can pretend to just be a guy who's like, you know how there's those guys who are like, they're like autistic and they're really into trains. This is not meant to be disparaging. I mean, like there's a lot of autistic guys who are really into trains, and I'm assuming some women, who are into trains, right? And like I feel like if I just frame myself as just a guy who's just really into microwaves, I can get away with like filming around the Lowe's or something, right? I think that would be great. It would be like kind of like someone in the comments would say it's like I'm pretending to be autistic or something. Like it's like stolen valor. I think that would be awesome. If you just pretend to be like really stupid, like if you were just pretend to be like extremely like brain dead, is that like stolen brain cell? Not brain cell. What the fuck am I talking? Stolen chromosome. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the fucking word. Those are different things. Maybe I have a stolen chromosome. That's what trans men have. They steal a Y chromosome. That's what they do. What was I going to talk about today? I promised last time we didn't have any questions from last time, so that was your microwave segment. I promised I was going to talk about some YouTube ad shit. That's what I wrote down in my notes. It's called YouTube ad shit. I'll probably also have a thing in my next video about it because I feel very strongly about this. So, when I went to that convention with my friend and my goify, that's slang for girlfriend if you don't know. My goify. They were both getting on my ass about like, why don't you run? Because I get like a decent amount of viewership per month. And they're like, why don't you run ads on your videos? And I just hit them with the usuals, which is like, well, for one, like my most viewed videos are all copyright claimed, so like I can't run ads for myself on them. Number two, I just don't like ads, which I've explained before. And they're like, no, but like you could, I don't like ads. And my friend was like, okay, what if you just ran like a post-roll ad on your video? And I was like, like just a because my thing is like it hurts the viewer experience. I think it's shitty. I don't like I use an ad blocker, right? So I think it's hypocritical of me to use an ad blocker and then have a business model that relies on people not using ad blockers. So I was like, well, if it's just like a post roll, I was legitimately considering it. I was thinking, if it just comes at the end of the video, that's pretty unobtrusive. Like most people I imagine click off before then anyway. It could just be like a little scam to get people. It could just be a little scam to get some more, wring some more money out of people who actually watch the entire thing and give me the most watch time. I'd be punishing them with an ad, you know? See, that's what my family does. We're kind of like, it's like a familial thing. My dad spends half of his day trying to figure out what states he can get the best tax breaks in. So I know like a lot about tax evasion in the US because of him. He doesn't actually do it. He just thinks about it and he researches it all day. But as far as I know, he's never done it. So it's kind of like in our blood. So I was legitimately at least considering it, right? Maybe I'll try it out, see if it actually does anything on like one or two videos. And then literally the next day, that became a completely moot point because as of November something, YouTube updated their ad policies. I remembered getting an email from them about something like this, and I was like, okay, they're changing it to whatever. All right, I don't care. I don't use ads. I don't run ads on my videos, so I just like ignored it. And then I actually decided to look at what the changes were when they rolled them out, and holy shit. So, the way YouTube has always worked is that at a certain point in upload, assuming that you are verified, you are over the qualifications for monetization, which I think they even lowered. They lowered it to like 500 subs. What is it now? It was 1,000 subscribers and 400 watch time hours. Hang on, YouTube ad requirements 2023. Okay, they're not. This search is not providing me with valuable information. Anyway, they lowered it. 500. Yeah, it's 500 subscribers. YouTube is lowering the eligibility. They did this back in June. 500 subscribers and 3,000 valid watch hours instead of 4,000. Damn. All right. Well. So ads are more accessible to people. Okay, that might seem cool. because they want more people to run ads. So that's the way it's... What was I talking about? I got totally off track. Anyway, once you qualify for it, during the upload process, there's a step called monetization or whatever it's called. And it's a yes or no. It's off or on. I always set it to off. It's a mandatory thing. You have to at least like say off or on because they need you to choose. There is no default. If you click on, you then get this whole interface that decides where you get to decide what kind of ads do you want? Do you want skippable or non-skippable ads? Where do you want them in the video? Do you want just post-roll ads? Or sorry, just post-roll, mid-roll, pre-roll, before the video, after the video, during the video. If you're placing mid-rolls, how many do you want? There's limits on like how many mid-rolls you can place depending on the length of the video, right? So that's the way it works, except it doesn't anymore. Now, I want to break this down. I can't believe aren't more people talking about this, because this is the most fucking insane change I've ever heard of. Now, it's same on or off question, except if you decide to turn ads on, you no longer have a choice over where the ads go. Ads are decided via YouTube consults the spirits, and the spirits decide where the ads go. It is decided via algorithm, which I refer to as the spirits. They spin a fucking wheel and they decide, should there be a pre-roll on this? Should there be mid-rolls on it? Who knows? And you might be asking, okay, pre-roll and post-roll, that's fairly disconnected from the video itself, all things considered. That seems like it's not the worst thing in the world. How does it decide where mid-rolls go, or how many there should be? Well, it uses its magical powers to detect moments of downtime in a video, which sounds awesome. It sounds great. I'm sure that won't fuck anything up at all. Like, I was read through these changes, and I legitimately could not believe how bad of a decision this was. This new fellow, who's the CEO, because Miss Jabberwocky, Susan Wendigo, she left. The new guy, Neil Mohan. The Mohan, I believe the YouTube subreddit calls this the Mohan regime, which is a very funny phrase. Wow, this dude came in a couple months ago, so these are like the first changes that he's rolling out that are like definitely under him, and this and the ad block shit is legitimately like the two of the worst changes to this website that I've seen ever. Like, there were a lot of really fucking bad changes to YouTube over time. It sucks to use a website for over half of your life, like your entire life, and kind of watch it just kind of slowly get worse year over year in minute but painful ways, like making the video player have rounded corners. Hey, you know why that's stupid? You know why making the thumbnails round was stupid? Because I don't fucking make thumbnails with rounded corners. What the fuck? I don't make videos with rounded corners in Premiere, you fucking idiot. I don't have a screen that records things with rounded corners, you fucking moron. And there's not even a way to change it. The ad block shit was... The ad block shit was clearly like, this is not a way to make revenue. I never talked about that. But the ad block thing was not a way to make revenue. What that was, to me, transparently, is Mohan is in and he needs to prove his worth to the YouTube overlords, aka the investors. And he needs to it's like, fuck, this company is not profitable. The entire value in keeping YouTube around is in scraping data off of users to sell to advertisers. In our Google nightmare vault. So, fuck, I can't, how do I raise profits? There's like nothing to raise. This business model makes 0 sense. So what do? We offer this product, YouTube Premium. Well, if I get YouTube Premium subscriptions up and increase revenues from there, that'll make me look like a really good boy. So how do we do that? Well, we just have to like muscle out all of the replacements, all the free replacements for what YouTube Premium offers. We start with ad blocks. I genuinely don't even think ad blockers are a significant amount of YouTube users. I would be shocked because fucking normies don't know what that is. So many people have no idea, like no clue what an ad blocker is or what it does, or maybe they've heard of it, or they're like, I don't know. Like, most people use like 0 fucking extensions for their browser. Ad blocking is like, honestly, it's like a semi-power user thing at this point. Like, if you really talk to a regular ass person, not like a weirdo who listens to the Cellarcast, talk to a regular ass person who computes like a normal person, and they probably don't use ad block. One of the ironies of this whole situation is that it's probably made ad blockers more popular because now people know about them. Oh shit, I could just like install one extension? Really? With like one click? And then I can just block ads out of my entire browsing experience? You can get one of those on your phone? What? Wow, yeah, you totally can. That was a fucking shitty ass change. And then honestly, like, that was such a user hostile change. And this new ad monetization fucking spin the wheel change, this update, is I don't see what the good is in it. I don't see where the good is. Because all it does is disempower people who used ads responsibly in their videos. I never want to act like just because I don't use ads, that everyone who uses ads is some kind of like awful monster who hates their viewers or something. It's not at all what I mean. This is a very personal, like, specific to me thing. And I understand that, like, the things, like, there's a reason that I am not the king of the world. And that's because I have a lot of bad ideas that work for me and me alone. Right? You should see my room. I should not be God. But it works for me. And there are a lot of people will run ads on their videos, and they will do it in a responsible way that is at least taking into account the viewer experience. They'll plan their videos around ads and things like that. I watch channels who literally put ad break spots in their videos. Like, they edit in moments of just like black screen or something, and that's meant to almost be like a commercial break cue. Red Letter Media does that. Are they monetized? I actually don't know because I use ad blocker. And like, for me, I don't even want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to deal with writing my videos and writing my scripts based around ads or even sponsorships. Like, I don't even want to take sponsors, to be honest. Like, I don't think people like watching sponsorships. I could like do my best to, there are creators who I respect who put work into like making a little skit around a sponsorship, and you know what, that's all fine and good, but I just fucking skip it. I used to watch them, and then I'm like, I really don't need to watch an ad for this. It is not like, how do I say this? If I'm just straight up not in the market for something, I don't care. I could not care. Could not care less. I don't want to write my videos around sponsorships. I started using Sponsor Block. Holy shit, it is great. Oh my god, you just click a button. You just hit a button as soon as the sponsor segments boots up. Wow. I skipped it. Awesome. That change, this newest change, is the most like one of the most creator hostile changes that they've made in the longest time. just the longest time. Why are you choosing to disempower people who use the ad platform responsibly instead of just switching around the rules that govern how many ads someone can put on their video? Because I'm sure that's going to be their response. It's so crazy no one's even talking about this. Because, like, why this change exists. You know why it exists is so, I wonder if the great spirits are going to choose more or less ads on this video. I wonder which one. I'm sure it'll only be one tasteful ad. And I'm not privy to that experience, right? I use ad blocker. If you don't use an ad blocker, let me know in the comments below if you have noticed a change in the way that, like, any significant change in ads since the change went through, which it might not have gone through for everyone, to be honest. They usually roll it out in stages, but I definitely got it because I got the notification and all that. I think it was for everyone. Yeah, YouTube ad shit. This fucking website. So all this is done is, right, I told you that I was considering thinking about putting post rolls in some of my videos. Now, rest assured, dear listener, advertisements will never run on my channel. They will never run on my channel. I don't even think sponsorships will run on my channel. If you want to support me, you can, watch the video, like it, leave a comment, subscribe, engage with it. If you really care about supporting me, engage with it. If you want to support me via money, send me $1 on Patreon. Right? And the wonderful thing about a Patreon model is that, even with the somewhat small amount of patrons that I currently have, those people technically pay for everyone else. That's how you can think of it. Not everyone has to pay with an advertisement view, like a shitty little ad view, whatever the value you get out of that, because there's someone who's paying $10 a month who's covering $1 or $5 or $10 a month, who's covering however many people that ad you would have needed to constitute that amount of money in ad views. Does that make sense? That was a very convoluted way to say that. And how many ad views do you need to add up to $5? Well, I have a bunch of $5 patrons. Every single one of them counts up that many ad views. Depends on CPM and that would be specific to my channel, but you know what I'm talking about. That's why I appreciate it. You will never see an ad on my channel. If you see an ad on my channel, it's because it got copyright claimed, and you should use an ad blocker. And I want you to use an ad blocker on my channel at the very least. At the very least on my channel. I want you to use it. Okay? I'm giving you the approval, and I'm giving you the card. I'm giving you the ad block card. Block away. All right? That's what I have to say on that. I will probably I feel very strongly about this, and I'm probably going to have a segment on the next video bitching about it. I never get to complain about YouTube shit in videos. Let me do it now. Let me do it in a main video. Anyway, we finally finished the Disney 2000s era marathon, and I'm free, and now I get to force Kat to watch things that I want to watch. I think the first thing that we're going to watch is I want to show her Konosuba. It's that and JoJo's are legitimately two of the things that I want to show her. The problem is that JoJo's is 300 episodes right now. And I think she'll like it. I love JoJo, but it's just such a fucking time investment, right? I think I burned through all of JoJo's in over the course of like 2 or 3 months of like constantly reading and watching it. Like the manga. I'm caught up on the manga. I'm that deep in. So we watched Bolt. That was the last thing. And I remember like when the top, they were like, how many, her friends were like, so what movies do you have left? And we were like, Bolt. And they were like, oh, fuck Bolt. And I was like, what? What's wrong with Bolt? So we watched it. And yeah, no, it's not a bad movie at all. It's a fine movie. It's not like the second coming of Christ or anything. It's just, you know, it's a pretty decent kids movie. There's some things that are legitimately kind of funny. There's some good moments in there. There's yeah, it's fine. If you don't know what Bolt is, Bolt was a 2000, I want to say 8 CG movie. Their third CG movie, I want to say, after Meet the Robinsons and Chicken Little Guy. And it's about a dog. It has a weird premise. It's kind of like, it's like the Truman Show, but he's a dog. Bolt is a dog that is like owned by this little girl, and she's an actress in a TV show, and that co-stars the dog Bolt, where he's like a super dog, and it's like a super dog superhero like action thriller show with a little kid protagonist, and the Bolt. For some reason, the producer of the show has decided that Bolt, they have to like Truman show him into believing that he really is a super dog, because he is. They need to capture the most emotional performance out of him, out of the dog. Or which is why the show is so successful, except apparently it isn't, because the writing is predictable. So the producer is like, shit, we gotta add some tension into the show. So we're gonna have a cliffhanger bad ending where the little girl owner gets kidnapped, and Bolt, who believes all of this is real, is completely under the impression that she has really been kidnapped. And there's a lot of weird little things like, okay, so Bolt is like, this is a talking animal movie. Does he know about the outside world? Has he seen it? Does a dog understand the difference between a set and the outside? I guess maybe by smell? I guess they would. How do the producers know that? Could you conceivably, I mean, I think about it, you ever seen those videos? They're very cute. It's like a dog that was raised with like a family of cats or something, and it acts like a cat. or vice versa, like the cat has a very like kind of dog way of stepping, and it'll like bark and stuff, and it's really cute. And it has little dog mannerisms. You can like definitely raise an animal in a way that makes it look at itself and the world in a very particular way. Could you do that with it? I gotta blow my damn nose. I'm sniffling too much. Oh god, nothing came out. Damn it. Like, nothing came out. A little came out. My nostrils do feel better. A little bit. They feel a little clearer. Does Bolt know? Is the illusion going to be shattered if he, like, goes outside? I guess it is. Like, I don't know. I feel like you would get this. I feel like dogs don't know what fiction is. Like, they barely have object permanence. That's a joke. They probably do. Anyway, so he is under the impression that she's actually been kidnapped, and he escapes from the set. in an attempt to be like, I'm gonna save Penny, who's played by Miley Cyrus, interestingly. I don't really know that much about Miley Cyrus's speaking voice. Did she ever voice act in anything else? I'm actually kind of curious about that. It is Miley Cyrus, right? Unless Kat was lying to me. And honestly, I thought she did a pretty good job. Like, yeah, no, it is. And Bolt is John Travolta. John Travolta. What has she voice acted in? Doesn't really look like anything else. Known for... Yeah, she has like... Does she have more than 4 acting credits? Like projects? I don't think she has a very, very wide... I think she's only acted in 4 things. That's funny. And 2 of them are Hannah Montana related. One being Hannah Montana and the other being Hannah Montana the movie. Which is rated on IMDb as being mildly worse than the series it's based off of. Let's look at some IMDb trivia for Bolt. That dolt. Oh, Grey Delisle plays the mom. What was she in? She's in a bunch of shit. That's funny. What's Grey Delisle, aka Grey Griffin, in? That's in. She's in so much shit. Oh my god. Yeah, she's one of those. She's been around forever. Is it? Oh, she's John from Bayonetta 3. And wait, she came up in a video, didn't she? Wait, she totally came up in a video that I made on the main channel. Dude, what was it? It wasn't Illbleed, was it? She's totally... I'm gonna be searching for it while I'm talking about... I was gonna look at trivia. Anyway, we can look at trivia later. I'll be scrolling through her credits. She's Katana from Mortal Kombat. That's probably not what I was thinking about. Yeah, and then this sets off a series of misadventures of him getting... he gets shipped off to, like, New York. And, there is... Okay, so there is kind of a... I actually do like the dynamic between the sort of really 2 main characters, which is him and this cat that he meets up with named Mittens. Mittens is this, like, New York cat. And she... is kind of like she's kind of presented as being like a small-time mafia boss where she has these like pigeons that she extorts, that she threatens into bringing her food, or she's gonna like eat them. Oh my god, the sniffles are already coming back. And oh yeah, so the villain in Bolt's show is like cat themed. I say cat themed. He has a cat, so cats are like the villain. The villain animal. That's it. He hates cats. He's super racist, and he assumes that they're all evil, and so he thinks that the Mittens is some kind of like that she works for the villain of the show. And he, like, threatens her into telling... He like, fucking hangs... He grabs her and, like, hangs her off of a freeway, like an overpass, and he's gonna drop her. And it gets very real, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's kind of funny. It's like, oh yeah, he's, like, completely... Delusional isn't really the right word. He's so completely brainwashed that he's, like... He cannot understand the reality of anything that's going on, which is kind of funny. And Mittens is almost like trying to survive him because he's got her by this leash that she cannot untie. Uh, so they go on this adventure across America, and there's like some legitimately a couple pretty funny moments of basically Bolt believing that he is legitimately like a superpowered dog and threatening their lives. Threatening their lives, and Mittens freaking the fuck out. And it's kind of funny. And then the movie overall is okay. I would call it above average. It's fine. I was actually kind of surprised at... Well, I was like, okay, so what do you think about it? You called it, like, garbage earlier. What do you think about it now? And she said that the last time she watched it, she was a kid. And she just thought it was okay. She thought it was fine. And of course, that made a lot of sense to me because, again, in Kat's mind... Grey Delisle is in Y2K the game. I have to make a video on that. In Kat's mind, something being okay is like, it's fucking garbage, and it sucks, and I hate it, and it's a piece of shit. When the fuck did Grey Delisle come up in my video? I'm gonna open up Google Docs and do a search for her. Oh, Star Wars Edutainment. She's Amidala, isn't she? Hang on. Yeah, she's the voice of Padme in all the animated shit and the video games. There we go. Okay, let's read some trivia about Bolt. Does this movie have any good trivia? So there's this hamster that they get who's kind of like a big Redditor. He's like a super fan of Bolt, and he can't tell the difference between reality and fiction a lot. Which he's very like he spends all of his time in a little hamster ball. He's like a Redditor, and his name is Rhino. And apparently they adopted a real hamster they called Doink, and they filmed him from underneath while walking on a sheet of plexiglass to study how a hamster walks. That's kind of funny. I like that. The bus from Speed makes a cameo? What the hell? That's funny. Since the word bolt can be used as a vulgar word, meaning a male organ in Russian. Really? What kind of organ? Like the liver? The spine, I wonder? It's not an organ. Fucking idiot. Me. Does it mean penis? It was released as Volt in Russia, with the hero called Volt. Okay. The film is also called Volt in Hungary, France, and for the French language release in Canada. Also, the name of the film is Lightning in Croatia, Slovakia, Estonia, and Poland. You don't care about this shit. Originally, Mittens was to be called Mr. Mittens, as her masters never took the time to check if she was male or female. That's a sign what at birth? That's like a Bridget situation. The first film to be released on Blu-ray before DVD. That's actually kind of interesting. It's a historical film. John Travolta was always the first choice to be the voice of the dog. That's actually really funny. Because I assumed, like, oh, he did it for his kids or something. Like, he got the opportunity. But the idea that they were like, we wrote this dog with you in mind, Mr. Travolta, is pretty amusing. He's very dog-like. Yeah, anyway. Let's see. The only, I don't care about anything else. Yeah, so that was Bolt. It's fine. Your kids will like it. I have a quick tier list up right now to rate every single movie that we watched as part of this gauntlet. And I guess we'll go in order. We never watched Fantasia 2000, so we cheated, but I don't know. It's probably fine. Dinosaurs like F tier. Emperor's New Groove is B tier. Atlantis is probably like an A tier. Brother Bear is C tier. It's too inconsistent. Treasure Planet is goated tier. S tier. Lilo and Stitch is B tier. Home on the Range is... Do I want to put Home on the Range in the same tier as Lilo and Stitch? That seems weird to me. That doesn't sound right. I'm gonna shelve that for now. Chicken Little is C tier. Meet the Robinsons is C tier. Bolt is C tier. Princess and the Frog is probably A tier. Home on the Range is... Fuck it, we put it in B tier. I think I enjoyed it too much. It's too weird. So the official rankings go S tier, Treasure Planet. A tier, Atlantis and Princess and the Pog. B tier is Emperor's New Groove, Lilo, Stitch, Home on the Range. Fuck you. C tier is Brother Bear, Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, and Bolt. Nothing in D tier. F tier is Dinosaur. We never watched Fantasia 2000. And I'm shutting the book on it. On this entire stupid endeavor. That was everything. I'm pretty sure that was everything. I'm looking at the list. That's gotta be everything. Alright. We're finally done. We're freed. I want to show her Konosuba next because it's like 2 seasons, 10 episodes each, and it goes by pretty quickly, and it's funny, and I think she'll like it anyway. I haven't watched it since like I was in high school. I mean, I liked it in high school. I thought it was great. I'm kind of curious how well it'll hold up. I actually think it'll probably hold up pretty well. Yeah, that will not be the podcast next week because next week is the Scott Pilgrim anime. what we found out? Apparently Lisa is not going to be in the show, which I find really interesting. I think there was a statement from Brian Lee O'Malley where he said that he kind of likes the idea that every single version of Scott Pilgrim is a different thing, and I'm kind of okay with it. I'm a little okay with it. I think, well, it depends on what they do. It depends on what they kind of replace that with. If anything at all, because the Lisa shit is so fucking important in the comic. I think it would be kind of interesting to be like, yeah, to end up in a situation where the comic... the book is not a replacement for... Sorry. The movie is not a replacement for the book. The show is not a replacement for the book. The game is definitely not a replacement for the book. The book is also not a replacement for the movie or the show. Or the game. And none of them are vice versa. And Scott Pilgrim is this weird multimedia parallel dimension... Like, series of parallel dimension stories... with the same, broadly the same characters, but alternate takes on the same themes, where they split off into these weird directions. I think that shit's pretty interesting. Did I ever talk about... Okay, there's a really interesting video that I got linked about the Scott Pilgrim... it's called like the best worst comic book movie or something like that. And it's basically analyzing how weird it is as an adaptation. And it goes far beyond the fact that it's like, oh, yeah, well, they had to cut stuff. Because my reading of it was always, they had to cut stuff because it didn't work with the runtime constraints of a movie. And that was true. That is true. The film is constrained around that. And it's kind of built around the fact that it has a movie's runtime. But it goes way further than that, and it's actually kind of interesting. Essentially, the movie started production after the second volume of the comic came out. 2 of 6, right? And there was about 1 volume released every year. So, Edgar Wright really wanted to make this movie, And he was like, but there wasn't enough out. So they agreed, and I guess he got in contact with O'Malley, and they were all down for it, and the rights were signed off, but it was like, well, the story's not complete enough to adapt. So he made Hot Fuzz in between as a stopgap. Isn't that so fun? Hot Fuzz was Edgar Wright's stalling tactic to wait out the Scott Pilgrim comic being done. Isn't that so funny? What a guy. So, the comic, the final volume of the comic came out 2 weeks before the movie. You're like, what the fuck? Apparently Wright and some members of, the production team, the people who, certain members of the production team worked very closely with O'Malley throughout the process, because O'Malley, when he started writing the series, wasn't sure how it was going to go in a lot of different ways, which you can kind of feel. I think it all works out in the end, because it kind of turned, I think O'Malley ended up executing it so well that that kind of aimless, sort of almost listless feeling really enhances what the book is going for, and by the end the payoff is really incredible. But there's a bunch of things in the movie that aren't in the book, but were in like notes or concepts that O'Malley was tossing around that he just didn't use, or decided to go with something different. Here's another funny thing, like I think a great anecdote for this. The climax in the movie, right? Like the whole climactic scene in Gideon's nightclub with the big black pyramid and all that really cool set piece location, that happens in the comic, right? That is the same like location of the climb. The context for that, if you haven't read it, is completely different. The context is like totally different things are happening, but it's the same location. It was made for the movie first. O'Malley kind of had the idea of like, okay, he's gonna fight Gideon at the end, and he kind of had that in his head, and he knew that was probably locked in. But Edgar Wright and his set designer designed that set first, and O'Malley was like, that shit looks awesome, I'm gonna write that into my comic. It's almost not even fair to call the movie an adaptation of the comic. It's almost like a parallel universe of the comic. And I think actually makes me appreciate it more. And I think it's actually a really unique thing about that movie, and it makes me really curious about the new anime, because it's like, okay, how do you, I don't know, it's a really interesting situation. I would totally recommend it, that video. It's really like the whole breakdown of the timeline of where the movie was in production versus where the book was and how they lined up was really throwing me for a loop. I've never seen anything that was handled in that way. And it kind of makes me appreciate both more. I would totally recommend it. It was called like Scott Pilgrim, the best, like the best worst adaptation or something, comic adaptation, comic movie, something along those lines. It's like a 45-minute video. Let's see. I have been inspired by recent events to go, okay, I was thinking about character creators, and I was like, damn, you know what had the best character creator of all time? City of Heroes. It really was the GOAT. Like, when I went and played it for that video, I was blown away at how awesome it was. And like, I spent almost an hour in that character creator. I'm not like a big character creator nut, right? I'll play around in them if one is particularly interesting or weird or has a lot of cool options. I'll check it out, but generally I just kind of like go through section by section. I'm not usually one to spend 3 hours in the character creator. I might spend, SF6 has like probably like a new gold standard for character creators, honestly. And I think I spent maybe 20 minutes, maybe, like, total making my character. And a lot of that was probably just spent on, like, some of the weirder options, or like how you can choose your characters, the very weird controls they have for like you can have two colors for your character's hair, but it's like you decide the second color, like the placement of it via this like 3D weird fucking 3D like XYZ slider scale. It's really weird. We're trying to figure that out. I spent like almost an hour in the City of Heroes character creator, and I had to stop myself and like force myself to make a character when I played that game, because it was just taking too long. You know, it was. I was like, I have to actually play the game, because I tried to spend like maybe 2 hours, at least 2 hours playing each game. I had 3 to get through, and it was just to get a little taste. And yeah, that character creator was awesome, and I'm like, I should go back to that game. So I booted up City of Heroes Homecoming, the legacy server. I created a new character, because I just, for whatever reason, okay, I'm not a Kamen Rider guy, but I had this urge to like make a Kamen Rider. Because I'm like, you probably could, because the creator is there's so many options. And yeah, I totally could. I don't know, I might post it somewhere or something. The character that I made. But it's like I think it's a pretty fucking good Kamen Rider recreation, like the original costume with the green and all that. The green and black one with the bug eye helmet, I think, and the scarf. And I have basically that. A pretty close approximation of that costume. I found some videos of people like making like all the X-Men characters in the creator, and it like looks really good. It doesn't look as jank as you'd think. So essentially, okay, so I just kind of want to gush about how cool that game is, and some of my complaints with it. Some like gripes that I have. So first of all, the character creator, if you haven't seen it before, so City of Heroes has no gearing system. There are no equipment slots. There's none of that shit. What you do is you create a character, and you essentially create your superhero costume. There is no low level armor and then high level armor. There's none of that. You essentially imagine all of the options afforded to you in like the entire breadth of an MMO's, like all their different cosmetic armor pieces and all that. And the game just gives that to you up front. So there's like over 20 or 30 like different costume sets is what they're called. And then you can mix and match parts out of all those costume sets. Like, what is it? Head, upper body, lower body, feet, I want to say. And then within those, they all have, depending on like what costume part you pick, they'll have like different optional add-ons. Like, okay, you have all these different categories of head pieces, like different like full mask, half mask, like a full helmet, no mask at all. You can have no head, and then you'll have like additional options for like, you can have like a floating ball. Your head can be just a floating orb and shit. And you can make like things orbit around your head like eyeballs. You can be like a brain in a jar. Like there's all these different categories of different like extra options for those things that don't fit into costume sets. And then they will also have additional, what would you call them? Like customization things, that like optional add-ons. So what I did is I got like one of the it was cyborg heads, I want to say, and then I put bug eyes on it, and then a little like head, like forehead piece to be like the forehead piece of the mask, which is pretty. It's not the exact same one, but it's pretty close. And then you can mess with all the colors and customize all the colors for all these pieces. And then on my like torso, I got like this other specific armor piece that is like this one like specific texture that looks kind of close, and then I colored that like green or something, and then you can put like markings, you can put like patterns and like additional textures layered over that. So then I got something to look pretty close to the armor, and then you customize the gloves. You the cape. I have essentially I use the option of a one shoulder cape, and it looks basically like the Kamen Rider scarf thing, and it looks really good. And then I picked the okay, so there's that, and then so you're like, okay, so City of Heroes was designed before WoW. They both came out in 2004, I want to say. It was developed without WoW being the dominant kind of idea of what an MMO looked like, which means that it just kind of does things differently, and not in like a convoluted reinventing the wheel way, just kind of differently. And it fits the theme of like creating a superhero. So like you don't pick a class. Essentially you don't pick a class, and the leveling, there isn't really like a skill tree. Essentially what happens is you select an archetype, and there's like 8 or so archetypes. There might be like 10 if you count. There's like 2 bonus ones or something like that. And those are kind of broad, like Blaster is like ranged things, Scrapper is like melee things, Brute is like heavy melee. There's like Mastermind, which is like a puppet character kind of deal, or like summoning minions. And then within those, once you pick your archetype, there are a certain number of power sets available to each archetype. Power sets are essentially what they sound like. It's like, okay, you picked. So I picked. My archetype was Scrapper because I was trying to make a Kamen Rider. Scrapper, like, okay, kind of light, quick melee character. What power set goes well with that? So you've got something like, okay, lightning control or like lightning manipulation, and then within that there will be a bunch of different abilities, a bunch of different powers, which are like shoot a lightning beam, do this thing with lightning, do that thing with lightning. So I picked martial arts as my primary power set, and that has a bunch of like kick moves in it. Oh, perfect. The Raida kick. So you pick a primary one, which is like mostly you're going to be like your kind of combat abilities, your attacks and all that. Maybe some buffs or some utility stuff. But it's kind of like that's the meat of your power set. Then you have a secondary power set, which tends to just be like utility stuff to assist a main power set. And those are also specific to archetypes. Like they're not all available to everyone. So I picked ninjutsu as my secondary because it's got things like for the thematic flair, buffs that essentially make you dodge and weave out of attacks. So like high evasion stat kind of thing. Also, you can go invisible. And then eventually later on you get what's a so-called power pool, which are like universal powers that anyone can invest into. And that's where you get your kind of traditional superhero, a lot of like honestly like mobility stuff, like leaping, super speed, flying, and stuff like that. And then that has its own set of things within it, like set of other powers that split off from it. So you got your power set, and then every time you level up, at some levels you can gain new powers. So you'll just go to like a trainer, and there's always like 1 or 2 trainers on every zone, and you talk to them, and they're like, "That's cool. You're so good at being a superhero character. You get to pick a new power from one of your power sets." You're like, awesome, cool, and that's how you gain. It's not that crazy to wrap your head around. But then you're like, well, if there's no gear and you do not level up individual powers, right? And there's no like weapons, so like, how do you do have stats that go up as you level, but how do you influence your stats or become more powerful? With this little system called enhancements. So instead of enhancing like your gear or upgrading that, as you fight enemies, you earn these things called enhancements. And enhancements are little baubles that you essentially slot into. They're little upgrades. You slot them into your powers, and they give them an enhancement based off of what the enhancement is. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Christ. Dude, that poltergeist in Cat's house is like followed me home. The dust ghost. So, I noticed that of my abilities, I was having some accuracy issues where I was missing a lot, which is annoying, and I don't like accuracy rates. A lot of this game seems to be balanced around fucking just missing attacks straight up a certain amount of the time. So I upgraded some of my more commonly used... I upgraded, like, my big heavy hitting move that I've got with, like, 3 big accuracy enhancements. It made it way more consistent. And then I have kind of like a workhorse move, like a basic kind of kick attack. And I put some, like, cooldown enhancements on it, or recharge as they call it. Made me use it really fast, but then I noticed, using abilities or powers a lot of time uses up your main resource called endurance, which is like basically just a stamina resource that a lot of your powers will pull from. So I'm like, it's too expensive. It's eating up all my endurance, and I'm running out of endurance, and I'm running out in the middle of fights. So what I got to do is then upgrade that with some endurance cost reduction enhancements. And that made me be able to just like spam those out really fast and up my deeps. There's like different levels. There's like different tiers essentially of enhancements, and you're locked out of using certain enhancements. There's one for every stat, but you are locked out of it via this kind of weird system. I don't know like what there's like a great purpose to it besides flavor, but it's called your origin, and it's technically the first thing you pick. You have the option of choosing what the origin of your powers are, and it's like science, magic, mutations, nature. I think just like one of them is just hard work. You can just be a grinder. If you grind for long enough, you get to shoot radiation out of your hands. That's what the Sigma influencers don't tell you. And then it doesn't influence like what powers you get to choose from, but it does influence kind of random shit like your enhancements that you can use. And it's not like you're just locked out of upgrading like a certain kind of stat. You just have to find a different enhancement for it, which is kind of weird. Like, okay, I picked like a magical origin for my powers. Didn't really affect anything. I was like, just sort of, I don't know, Kamen Rider. He's like magical. It's like mystical. I didn't know like how to describe that. It's like basically magical. But you have like a little transformer device thing. Like, I don't know. Techno magic. That's the one that I picked. And that means that there's certain enhancements that are only available for like science origins. And it's mostly just flavor stuff, honestly. It'll be like, for my accuracy enhancement, I have to use like this magical ring, is what it's called. That's what the enhancement's like, the magical ring. But a science would have to use this like scope device. And it's just the name, but it does mean that you can sell them off for a lot of monies, which is cool. There's kind of like also a sort of interesting system. It's called inspirations. Inspirations are basically a bunch of buffs that you can just kind of like randomly earn by fighting enemies or leveling up. And they're not scarce at all, and they're extremely... You can just go to a vendor and buy them, and it'll be like, okay, here's a a damage buff. Here's a defense buff. Here's an accuracy buff. Here's a heal. Here's like an endurance up. You know, there's like a revive one that you could use after you get KO'd. And it's like, it's cool. I don't know. It's fine. You just kind of like pop a couple if you're like, okay, I'm having trouble in this area. I got to pop a couple inspirations before I go in. And then as you level up, you get more. You can add more. There's a limited number of enhancement slots that each power can have. You can add some to them as you level up. You get more inspiration slots. All your things go up. And the game is mostly based around just kind of questing. And you know what? The questing is good. It's pretty good. I'm like level 14 or 15 right now. Max level is 40. And the kind of general storylines, every like 5 levels or so, there'll be like a major storyline thing that you go through that is pretty decent and actually had me kind of paying attention to what was going on, which I rarely do in most MMOs. I'm going to be honest. I lose track of MMO plots really easily because I'm there for that juicy little number go up action and not to read some text boxes. This one I was actually kind of paying attention because it's very like comic booky. There's a traitor on the inside of this group. This was all a setup for something. A lot of betrayal, a lot of like super drama, and like, oh, this villain's plan or whatever, and oh, there's a parallel dimension. It just throws that shit in very early. It is not worried about being a goofy superhero thing. Also not worried about being a goofy superhero thing and like the sheer weirdness available in the world. There's like, okay, here's some goons, right? They're just goons and like gangsters and thugs and all that. Beat up that drug dealer. He deals drugs because he's evil. You don't go to City of Heroes for political or ethical gray areas. You go there for the number go up, goddammit. But then it's like trolls. There's a race of magical trolls that are also a gang. And there's like robots and rock monsters and mud monsters and like secret societies. And there's a guy who's just like a wolf. You can make a furry character. There's a guy who's like a zombie. It's pretty varied, and it's not afraid to do like, here's some funky comic book shit. There's like some super sci-fi nonsense going on with aliens, and then you look around and there's just a sorcerer standing there. And it's fun. It's cool. It feels like made by people who actually like comic books. Yeah, I do have some gripes, and the gripes are in certain systems that I find to be kind of antiquated. Namely, this god-awful system called Debt. You might remember this from a video I did on my side channel called, like, Twixt? The professor who trolled and played victim or something like that. I think that's what I called it. So Debt is a system in City of Heroes. It starts affecting you around level 10. Essentially, when you die to a computer-controlled enemy, it does not happen in PvP. When you die in like a PvE situation, you incur what's called debt. And debt is basically just negative experience that you have to work off. So on your experience bar, there will now be a like darker segment on your XP, and it's not adding on. It's just stuff that you've already gotten. XP you've already covered, you've already earned, will now be darker, and you literally have to earn it again. And it happens every time you die, which means that I just fucking hate these kinds of mechanics. Star Wars Galaxies had something like this, which made me just fucking completely dry. I already was kind of like very much seeing the ways that I did not enjoy that game. on a deeper level, but then I kind of wrapped my head around how the wounds system and the what do they call it, battle fatigue worked. And I'm like, oh, are you just punishing me for playing the game? In that game, you had these god-awful, they were called wounds. And when you died or literally just took damage, you would suffer a certain amount of wounds, and it would limit how much health you had. It would literally put a cap on your health that would get greater and greater the more wounds you had. And the only way to heal wounds was to go to a doctor. You had to go to another player who was a doctor, and they had to like cast a buff on you to heal it back. And mind you, this is a fucking dead game that's played by like a bunch of 35-year-olds who are on at random hours of the day. It's not a lively world at all. So there's like Tatooine is like the only planet where anyone is. Every other planet, there's like no one around. Because it's too big for the amount of players who are playing on any one server. Even fairly big servers. So you have to... You just... okay, well you just gotta go... The only other option is to like... There was someone I found who was in a... They were somewhere on a planet, and they were a doctor who was just... They had set a... They were AFK, and they just essentially set their character to repeatedly just cast like the heal ability, and I just had to wait there for a while. It sucked ass, and battle fatigue was the exact same thing, or it wasn't. It limited your stats. It made your stats worse, and you got it by just doing shit. You got it by walking around and doing anything incurred battle fatigue. Oh, that was so annoying. I hate these kinds of like wound systems or the death, like losing penalties in like kind of long, especially like a long-term game like this. In my opinion, losing your progress, you don't actually lose your progress. If you're in an instanced area and you go back, all the enemies you killed are already, like, they're still dead. But, man, having to walk back there... Am I just lazy? Am I lazy and entitled? No. It's the boomers who are wrong. It's the Gen X designers of this game who are wrong. That's punishment enough for me to just have to go back and keep doing it. Like, I genuinely don't see how giving me a stat debuff discourages me. Like, what? Like, I see what you mean. I can see how it makes sense in the heads of the people who defend those kinds of mechanics. But I play it and I'm like, this just makes the game feel shittier. It just makes the game feel shittier, and it wastes my time. You're threatening me with wasting my time. And I don't think that's how you should do it. I think you should give people bonuses for doing well and not penalties for doing poorly. I don't think fucking taxing the poor more is a smart idea. I would much rather a system where it's like, oh, hey, you got through that entire instanced mission without dying a single time. Here's a bonus to your experience, you know? Like, you can, like, give me a rank or something at the end, and doing better gives me more experience or something like that. Don't just punish me for dying by wasting my goddamn time. Because that shit's annoying. Why would you put a thing in your game that's intentionally annoying? It's to teach the player to be careful. You could do that just as well with like a buff. This is the exact same thing. See, MMO designers figure this out already, and there's the exact same system in this game with rested XP. If you don't know, I forget what was the first game to do it, but it was like EverQuest or WoW or something like that. Essentially, they were like, shit, people are playing our game for 36 hours a day. That's not healthy. Because when you're designing an MMO, which is like a gigantic Skinner box, it's really hard to design it in a way that is like responsible and does not encourage people to sit at your computer for 36 hours a day. I've heard people like FF14 is like puts like the least pressure on you of any MMO to like get to the end game. And it is, the developers are straight up like, hey, if you don't like the game or if you're not having fun, Do not feel pressure to play it. Literally uninstall and cancel your subscription until the next update hits. And then if you're curious, come back and play. Like, even a game with developers like that who put that kind of messaging will still have people who are, and I've seen this online, who are like, yeah, I cannot play that game because I just get fucking addicted to it. It's really hard to design an MMO that's not addictive, which is why you have to enjoy responsibly, like a Coors Light. Wait, doesn't that not have... do light beers have... No, they have alcohol. What am I talking about? They just have less calories. No, there's like alcohol-free beers. That's different. That's a different thing. You could also enjoy a Coors Heavy responsibly. Not just a light. What the fuck was I talking about? Right. So they designed this, like, whatever game it was. They were like, okay, we're going to add, they called it like fatigue or whatever. And it was literally a system like the one in Galaxies, which is, hey, have you been playing for too long? You gain XP slower. You get a debuff to your XP gain. Players were like, that fucking sucks ass because you're punishing me for playing your game. So they were like, okay, players really don't like this. What if we implement literally the exact same system, but we just flip it from being a punishment to a reward? Which is why rested XP works, which if you exists. Which if you've never played an MMO before, rested XP is essentially after you're logged out of the game for a certain amount of time, like it's like 10 hours or something like that. Like you go to sleep, right? When you log back in, you will have a bonus to your XP gain for a certain amount of experience. You'll usually have like a little bar that shows you, hey, this amount of XP is going to come at you a lot faster. And then after that, it's regular gain rates. And players like that way more. But I'm pretty sure what happened, I don't think they nerfed the actual overall XP values in the game. They might have lowered it a little bit to account for rested XP. Rested XP? It's getting harder for me to talk now. But like, for the most part, they just made it a bonus instead, which I think is much better. Like, I hear there's so many things you can learn about human psychology from game design because they're just especially multiplayer games, because they're just these giant systems that are like relatively they're like, you can look at a lot of MMOs as just active experiments, broad mass experiments in how the human mind reacts to things in a social context. Like, it lines up perfectly with like, okay, so I've heard, a lot of parents don't know how to deal with technology, raising their kids with technology. And a lot of them fucked up. And it's not because they're terrible parents. They just don't know what they're doing, right? And they get their kids addicted to the iPad by the time they're like 6 years old. And I was someone who grew up with technology. I think I turned out fine, Like, I can go like a month without... If I had to go a month without using technology or looking at a screen, I probably could. And I've gone significant periods of time on, like, campouts where I've been in the middle of the fucking woods with no phone for a while. I mean, it's good to have, like, a phone on you just for emergency cases. But you know what I mean, right? I'm not like, I'm spending 3 hours a day playing Subway Surfers. And one thing that I've learned, that I've heard from people who are more knowledgeable about child psychology, is that when you're raising a kid with technology, you have to frame the technology as a reward and not a given, not a standard. Because what that does, if your kid assumes that having 24/7 access to the iPad is normal, when you take it away, that's like, what the fuck? You took away my normal thing. Like, what the hell, dude? That's like you taking away my meal. That's very upsetting to me. I expect to have 3 meals a day. You are not serving me dinner. What the fuck? I'm mad now. Obviously, one of those is significantly more abusive. But you know what I mean, right? You set an expectation with your kid. You can't just expect your kid to know right and wrong. You have to like actually set up their lifestyle. You have to like design. There's a period of your kid's life where you have to design their lifestyle. So the way to give my parents some credit, the way it worked was when I got home. At least this is what my dad did. When I got home, I get like an hour or two of downtime after school, and then mandatory homework begins at like 5 p.m. or something. And then until I finish my homework, I'm not leaving. Maybe if it pours into dinner, then yeah, we'll eat, and then I'll go back to my homework. And then once it's done, do whatever the fuck you want, Taigen. And I did. So it's like you have to frame things like technology as a reward for your kid for doing things, because that sets up like a good mental behavior. Because once they're older, they're like, well, I should get the important shit done before I just relax, before I just don't do anything and get sucked into the digital world. And that's like, oh, you can see that 10 years before that was even like a problem with something like Rested XP. If you frame something, don't punish someone for bad behavior. Well, punishing people for bad behavior definitely has its place. But for a lot of things, it's a lot better to reward people for good behavior rather than punishing them for bad behavior. That's in game design. That's the system of reward and punishment. You can have both, You can say like, hey, if you do all your homework, then you get to do whatever the fuck you want on your computer or whatever afterward. Maybe not anything, but maybe don't order guns to my house, Taigen. I never did that. Don't worry. Off the Silk Road. But hey, if you get shitty grades, you're definitely not. You might get like a privilege taken away. Maybe now you don't get downtime after school or something. I don't know. I don't know if that would work. But that's like that's a much better a culture of pure punishment for bad behavior is I don't know. I think it probably sets up bad ideas or bad expectations for your kid. It doesn't do much. It doesn't do very well for a lot of people. That's kind of my big gripe with City of Heroes is debt. I don't know, not much else. I'm really enjoying it. Besides the fact that when I alt tab and come back to the game, it always crashes, which is something that I think is legitimately just because it's built off of a thing from 2004. And it doesn't play well with alt tabbing, which is a shame. I'd really like to get a second monitor. I really would. You know what I'd like? I'd like to invest in like a little laptop. Something that'll at least last me a couple of years, right? Because I'd like to do a little work. Sometimes I'm just a lazy piece of shit and I don't want to sit in a chair. But if I'm laying down in my bed, I can totally do work. I edited like my first couple videos from my bed. And I think it would be really nice to just like, my plan, this is so stupid, to get a little laptop and then hook it to my PC via an HDMI cable and then use like the screen duplication thing to just like control my PC from the laptop from like a foot away in my bed, like a lazy piece of shit. So then I don't have to, I can like edit a video in the most American way possible. Just shoveling McDonald's into my mouth from my bed, from my pigsty bed. And then, I don't know, that would be fun. I could also use it, I don't know, it would be nice to use it for like live streams, which I don't do that often, but I will be doing on the 18th for my 3-year anniversary live stream. Check it out. I'm going to play Dark Souls 3, probably with my buddy Prox. But it would be nice to like use it to read comments and shit. Like I could just prop it up on the side and read comments and like, because you know what when I stream right now, what I have to do is take out my phone and open up the live stream on my phone,
and then prop it up against my monitor and read the comments through there, which is very janky. It would be nice to have like an actual separate screen that I could use for that. It would be nice. I don't know. It'd just be nice to have a second screen for some utility stuff. It's also just useful to have a little laptop that you can use if you're traveling somewhere or something like that. Because I'm very like desk bound in the way that I work right now. And it might be nice, you know. A laptop can handle some like light editing and all that. That Konami video was edited on a shitty $300 like HP laptop. And it somehow didn't explode, which is crazy to me. Those things can get a lot done. That would be nice. Yeah. maybe sometime soon. You know, holidays are coming up. Hey, speaking of Omni Man. Wait, fuck. Speaking of superheroes, Omni Man in Mortal Kombat 1. This is a very small side. Omni Man is the first DLC character in M1K, and not a game that I play, but I will say this game is way more fun to watch than MK11, and is more interesting to me from a gameplay perspective than anything since MK9, which I cannot play because it's been delisted on Steam because of Freddy Krueger. Thank you. Omni-Man might be the best animated character in an NRS game, and that's like a weird thing to say because he's not particularly like, I don't know, it might not be the first thing you think, but I'm thinking about it, and like the bar is not very high, but I do think that he has raised it. I genuinely think that basically, unless I've just missed a move or something, I think all of his shit looks really good. I think they did a really good job at actually capturing the personality of a character in their moveset and animations, which is something that Mortal Kombat is like almost inept at doing for some reason. They're like the one fighting game series that almost feels... Remember when I said that I felt like the fatalities kind of cheapen the characters a bit? I feel like MK has historically struggled to express any kind of character personality in the way that they fight. Like it's extremely... And you know who is the exception? Baraka. That's right. Big man Baraka. Baraka is a feral beast, and he looks like one when he fights, and it's cool, right? But a lot of characters are just like fighter people. They feel very generic to me in their actual animations, compared to like lots of other series where the characters have tons of personality in their animation. I was just watching a trailer for the new KOF 15 character, who's why the fuck am I blanking? Why am I blanking on their name? Oh my god, why am I blanking? KOF 15. It's Hinako. Yeah, Hinako. And I'm like, wow, that is a little girl who is a sumo wrestler. She's this tiny, scrawny little girl, and she picks people up and she slams them into the ground. And she's got all these funny little flourishes and shit during her animations. And she's got all this personality in it. And I wouldn't even say that SNK is like the gold standard for fighting game visuals. They're just like pretty good. And I think that that's something that NRS games have been lacking for a while. Until Omni Man. I genuinely think like... There's this... What is it? It's this... Oh, it's like his stance that he goes into where he floats off the ground and he just automatically, if you use the EX version, he'll just automatically dodge strikes. And it's super cool looking. And then he has a thing where like, while he's doing that, he has all these follow-ups you can do out of it. And one of them is he like just zooms behind you and like picks you up and slams you. And it looks great. He genuinely looks like a character who is just super duper powerful. And he doesn't feel the need to expend a lot of effort to fucking murder you. He reminds me a lot of like... This isn't a bingo card thing, but it is like an eye roll thing. He reminds me a lot of Slayer. Slayer is also a character who is like incredibly powerful. He's like one of the strongest characters lore-wise in Guilty Gear, but he just like kind of doesn't care. He's just sort of having fun, and his move, despite the fact that he is like an incredible fighter and he knows all these different martial arts and is capable of just storing nukes in his hands, he just kind of like has fun when he's fighting, and his moves, a lot of his animations are almost dance-like. Like he'll do a little spin, or he'll flip off the ground, or he'll throw these big stupid haymaker punches that are like not graceful or full of a lot of technique. He's just swinging because he's just having fun. Like his jump S, where he just kind of like prances around in the air, and it's like he is messing around, and then he just casually like destroys you with a pile bunker, or like punches you into the stratosphere. And like that's fun. Like you get that character's personality just by like you get everything you need to know about Slayer as a character just from watching him fight. And I get that same deal with Omni Man, and it's the same sort of character where he's this incredibly powerful, super durable, super fast, he can fly. And like one of his attacks, one of his specials is he literally just zips forward. He just floats forward super fast, and it does damage. And like it's barely animated, but it shows so much character. Like he doesn't even have to lift a finger to like destroy you. I'm pretty sure it has like a brutality attached to it or something like that. Do they have that in this game? I forget. And that shit's really cool. I love the follow-up where he does this like, he zooms up off screen and then he comes back down, like slamming down. And he just he's not bending his legs at all. Like you look at Shiva's stomp move in MK11, and she's clearly like putting effort into descending on you and like trying to crush you with her stomp. Omni Man just kind of like, it's like it's like he's practically just standing in place and you're just dragging him down in like Photoshop. Like he's just zipping down. And it's super cool, and all of his strikes are like really brutal and heavy feeling. He feels like this actually very fluid kind of brawler character, and all of the weird, funky little things that might have been like he overcomes a lot of the stiffness issues that NRS games typically have in their visuals by the fact that like he just moves super fast. Like his sweep is the most ridiculous animation for a sweep I've ever seen. He like swipes your foot out. He swipes your leg out from under you and then zips up. He zips up just above you and punches you downward in this like 2-hit strike. He sweeps you and then smashes you into the ground. And like when you slow it down, it's kind of weird looking, but in motion, I think it looks great. It's like, oh shit. Really cool, just looking heavy brawler character. It also helps that that's the kind of character that I like a lot, that I gravitate towards a lot in fighting games. But I gotta hand it to them. Very well animated character, and just like little facial expressions he'll make as he moves. Like he'll kind of like do a little eyebrow raise, or it's like no big deal to him to just absolutely like fly to space and pick up a meteor and throw it into you. And I think that's really cool. So good on ya, NRS. And for a character who, by the way, I have zero interest in Invincible. I did not watch it. I don't care about it. I didn't care about Omni Man. My reaction to watching seeing the DLC reveals was like, oh, there's just like 2 evil Supermen and big bad mean John Cena with a gun. Okay. All right. But this has made me a lot more interested to see like how do they handle Homelander. I imagine Homelander would be really more of like a traditional Superman type character. He's got the eye lasers, like maybe, I don't know if it'll be exactly like Injustice Superman, but something closer to that sort of a character in the kind of tools he's got. Whereas Omni-Man is like a beefy-ass brawler. And then I imagine Peacemaker? I almost said Peacelander. Peacemaker will have a gun, and that'll be it. You can make a cool gun character. You totally can. It's just NRS, and I don't trust them to make a gun character that doesn't suck to fight against. Yeah. Actually, this game has a lot more like anti-projectile stuff. Okay, if you want to know in very simple explanation, like layman's terms, if you've ever heard of NRS games like Injustice or MK having really bad problems with zoners, like projectile zoners, you're like, why is that? So NRS, for some reason, has always handled their projectiles unlike any other fighting game developers or series. So in most games, when two projectiles hit each other, they will like clash and they will cancel each other out. Street Fighter has always had a system until like 6 where it's like slightly different of like depending on the amount of hits a projectile deals, that's just also kind of comparable to its health. So like a 2-hit fireball will punch through a 1-hit fireball and it'll hit the opponent and still deal that 1 hit that's left over. You would have to hit it with also a 2-hit fireball to cancel it out. Sometimes in like Guilty Gear they have attack levels which define whether or not two moves will like clash or cancel each other out, and most projectiles are of the same attack level unless you're Nagoriyuki and you're like fucking maxed out and you can beat everything that's not like a super level projectile. So NRS games don't do that. There is absolutely zero interaction between projectiles, which means that they will just pass through each other, and there's not a lot to do against them besides just walk and block, or maybe you've got like a teleport or something. You better hope you do. Or something that very specifically counters projectiles, like a reflect or an absorb or something like that. But typically they design their games without a lot of anti-fireball tools. But there's way more in this game. They still don't have projectile clashing from what I can tell. But like Omni Man has this cool looking big ass like super clap move. And it just deletes projectiles. And that is cool. That is cool. I just wanted to mention that because I wanted to give them their due. Their kudos. MK1, everything outside of like its fucking awful microtransaction pricing shit, and also the fact that it lacks a ton of features that are kind of expected in modern fighting games, has done very well in my eyes as someone who does not play it. Yes, I hope that they appeal to me, a person who does not buy those games. That's how stupid I am. Yeah, that game winning like best multiplayer game was fucking ludicrous at the Golden Joystick Awards. Absolutely insane. They better not pull that shit again. For the Game Awards. It better not beat Street Fighter 6 for best fighting game. That would be absolute. Even if you love MK1, no, dude, there is no way. You cannot, in that game, you can't queue up for a match during training mode. What the fuck? Like, what the hell? There's so many features, it's just randomly missing. You couldn't pin moves in training mode until there was a patch. Like, what the hell? That's so weird for an NRS game not to, even by their own standards, to not have. Yeah, MK1 kind of feels like NRS was at the top of, like, because they just had all this money, and they could make these big cinematic story modes, and they were always, like, because every other fighting game developer was, like, floundering, and they couldn't get their shit together, and MK just was kind of coasting along on their, like, kind of set of features, and their lobbies, and all that, and what they offer, and then Street Fighter 6 came out, and they were like, shit. Fuck, we cannot compete with that. It's way too fully featured of a product, and it does so much cool shit. And we did not plan for that. Fuck. They came out too late before they saw what their competition was doing. Oopsies. Oopsie doopsies. I feel a little bad for them in that regard. Just poor timing. Because 6 definitely raised the bar for what I think should be expected out of a fighting game. Like, dude, every fighting game should have that frame meter. It's so fucking useful. Having in-game frame data. Actually, MK does have that. MK does have in-game frame data, although it was wrong. It was so weird. The frame data in the menu, like the the move list was wrong, but the little live reader that you would get, like when you actually like do the move and then it tells you what the frame data is, that was correct. But the stuff that they put in the menus was wrong for some reason. I don't know why that happened. Yeah. Good luck to them. Please stop charging so much shit for your shit. And I think I'm going to wrap it up there. If you've been listening this far, thank you for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, feel free to leave one down below, but please phrase it in the form of a question, because I'm not just going to read your thoughts out loud. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Scott Pilgrim anime and the Lisa Army loss. And whatever, I don't know. I don't know what I'll be talking about next week. Maybe some video games, perhaps? Who knows? Bye.